is, I believe, an Inc. story. This is an Inc. story. It says, 5 steps to making pitches like Elon Musk. The Tesla and SpaceX founder manages to leave his audiences cheering after each pitch idea he makes. The secret all boils down to these simple 5 steps. So, step number 1, according to this article, is number 1, name your enemy. Identify kind of the problem, the pain points. What's the big issue that your product or service is going to address and solve? So that was number 1. Number 2, it says why now is the time to fix it versus what makes now the right time and the market's ready for your product or solution. Number 3, paint a picture of the promised land. I feel like it's almost like the sales process. Like, you teach the sales secrets process to our community. It's almost kind of like that. And then how will you overcome obstacles? And then last but not least, win them over with evidence, client stories, your story. So we've been in the trenches. We're putting together this pitch deck. We need to raise, I don't know, $2 or $3 million here for some developers, maybe some additional sales processes and people in the My Figures build out this fintech app that we've got it live, and we need to add some components to it. So when you're naming your enemy, what do you think, what comes to mind, and thinking to our own pitch deck that we're putting together, like, what does it mean to really name your enemy, identify the problem, like the pain points? How's the best way you think to identify that?
Yeah, as you were saying these things, that's literally what came to mind, Leo. The sales training that we provide for all of our reps is you start with the pain, right? Name your enemy, like you said. You get into urgency, which literally right here, why now is the time to fix it, and then you present the solution, which is paint the picture.
The promised land.
So, that literally is a sales cycle, a sales process put into a pitch deck. And starting out with step 1, name your enemy, find that pain point. Your enemy is just another way of saying your competitors. Who in your space is going to be competing with you? Who do you need to overcome and beat and take over to win that market share? And it's very, very important, not that your enemy should be your sole motivator, but having that enemy is a very, very important step of building a business and gaining that success and having something to reach for. I think it's crucial. It's just like a rival in sports.
It's almost like you're finding this missing link, this missing solution in the market. So, for example, with what we do for years, clients, small business owners, we get them loans, lines of credit, we get them all these different accounts. They've got their bank accounts, they've got their investments, they're logging to 30 websites, and they're like, wow, how am I going to manage this? This is too confusing. And so we heard this for years. We're like, let's create an app where they can log in and it's all connected, one place, not 30 different websites. And, you've got different competitors out there like a Mint or a Truebill that have some similarity. Maybe Personal Capital, I think, is another one. But they aren't necessarily put together for a small business owner to manage the business. It's more of a personal consumer type thing. But that's kind of one thing. But then we realize, well, that solves that problem, yes, but it's not enough. And then you start looking at another problem that entrepreneurs have, and that's, I don't know if I'm actually profitable. And in our previous business, like, things were so, discombobulated. I had no idea if we were making money, losing money, and it soon turned out we were losing money. And now when we started this business, the first thing we did was we wanted to bring your dad in, who's been a CPA for 30 years, break this down for us. I want to be profitable. And so he was very helpful in putting that together, and I really did a deep dive. But the majority of small business owners, QuickBooks is very complicated. And so that's another part where, oh man, I wish I had something simple, automated, that was intuitive and knew, hey, you're going to miss this and count this as income when it's actually not, or you're going to count this as an expense when it's actually not. And so if you had something like that, that would kind of solve the problem. So I'm just trying to give case study examples of this is where you present, hey, here's the problem, and here's what the market currently is not solving for this. We're going to solve that problem, and especially gig workers.
Yeah, absolutely. Gig workers, it's huge. And Leo, the thing with the pain question is the initial response you get is never the actual pain. That's what people need to realize in pitch decks, in sales, whatever it may be. If I ask my clients, well, why are you worried about getting 4 different credit cards? They may say, well, I don't want to have to log in 4 different places. If I took that as the pain and moved forward with it, I am totally wrong. I am off base. So the follow-up question of, well, why don't you want to log into 4 different places? Well, then I have to remember 4 different passwords. Guess what? That's still not the pain. The pain is I'll forget my passwords. Someone will steal my passwords. They'll get into my accounts. They'll steal my information. They'll steal my data. I'll forget to make a payment. So asking those probing questions, digging and digging and digging is how you're going to get to the pain. And that's something that we've learned in developing this pitch deck. Having all your accounts in one spot isn't the solution. Giving people the peace of mind is what they actually want. Giving them the ability to see everything and feel confident and comfortable with all of their accounts in one location, that's the pain point. That's what we're solving here, not the, well, it's going to take a little bit too long to log in 4 different places.
So it almost always, how often would you say as you dig deeper into the real pain point that it's actually connected to something more emotional versus logical?
99% of the time.
Right. And so I'm like, I don't want to have to log in all these accounts. But really, in the back of my mind, what I'm really scared of, what I'm really anxious about is, what if I miss something? What if I miss a payment? What if somebody hacks the account? I don't even know that they hacked the account, right?
Yeah.
But if I get a call Sunday morning from Venmo and some hacker stole $2,000 from my wife's Venmo account, which, by the way, that did happen on Sunday. But, yeah, that's really what people are. It's the emotional. And so getting down to that and solving that worry, that's what really solves the problem then.
Exactly. Someone calls in and says, Ty, I need $20,000 so I can start a side hustle on Amazon. Great. Why do you want to start a side hustle? Oh, I need to make a little extra money. And I can run with that and say, oh, they want to make a little extra money. That's their pain. Or
That's
I can
not
say,
the
why do you need a little bit of extra money? Well, things are getting a little bit tight. Well, what do you mean? My son's turning 16. I can't afford to get him a car, or I can't afford to get the groceries that we need. Okay, now you've got the real pain and you can actually help that person and impact that person. But I need a little extra money isn't going to get you anywhere.
No, and I want my son to be proud of me. I want him to, see me succeeding in a business, doing more than just this job that I don't love. And that's a why. And so getting down to that why is super important. So let's talk about painting the picture of the promised land, the solution and the vision. And I almost feel like you should share part of like the sunglasses analogy and how you present that. Because Ty, we have this community where we teach people how to launch funding businesses, and we teach coaches and consultants and so forth. And so one of the classes we teach is our sales secrets class, and Ty teaches that class. And painting that vision of the better life you're going to have with the product or service, solving that emotional problem for you is very important.
Yeah, it's extremely important. And like you said, if those first 2 steps aren't handled, it's useless. But if you felt the pain and the urgency is developed, now you're actually ready to change. And if someone can paint the perfect picture of what the solution is to this pain and why it has to happen right now, it's the easiest sell in the world. And so with the sunglass analogy, kind of similar situation. It sounds silly, but I got off a flight in Phoenix and it was extremely bright. It was a gloomy day in Utah, didn't think anything of it. Get off the flight in Phoenix and bam, the sun is on me, hitting me like you wouldn't believe. And it hurt. Like I was squinting. I didn't even realize this was a big deal, and end up at a sunglass hut, which I had never had expensive sunglasses before. I didn't really care about that. And I sit down and the sales rep comes and talks to me and says, well, did you ever think about what the sunglasses are actually doing? Do you think about how you look in sunglasses? It starts asking me all of these questions and made me realize, like, you know what, I do actually want nice sunglasses. I do actually want to make these changes. And better yet, because there's a buy one, get one half off, I ended up getting 2 very expensive pairs of sunglasses because they talked about my pain. They talked about the urgency. Can you imagine going out and driving in Phoenix with sunglasses that don't actually work with your kids in the back seat? And then they painted that picture of what it's going to do, and I walked away with 2 pairs of expensive sunglasses. Like
and then they ask you, well, hey, how well do you think these $10 sunglasses are actually protecting your eyes? And you're like, oh, yeah, my eyes are kind of important. Maybe I should invest in better protection. That's what a great salesperson does, is they ask about what your life's like and why you would choose something so inferior, and someone who's good at that will present that in their pitch deck.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you paint that promised land, and then you show, okay, great. Well, this is the potential promised land. Now, what are the actual obstacles? Well, I've got to be profitable. I've got to distribute it. What is my marketing plan? Do I have a good leadership team behind this business? Because ideas are a dime a dozen, but execution is everything. And then win them over with evidence. And, this is kind of where you have maybe one of those emotional stories where it's like, yeah, for example, my previous business, I never knew if I was profitable, and it turned out I was bleeding money. And when I put these rules into place and I knew where I stood from a profit and loss standpoint, it made all the difference. When I could manage all my money accounts in one place, my net worth started to grow from negative to multiple millions of dollars. And so when you have those stories, and then even more powerful stories of clients you've helped, showing that your product or service has worked, that's that proof of concept that Damon John talks about in Shark Tank. And when you have a proof of concept, now you have an opportunity to scale it because your product or service, brings that type of solution. And where what's unique about what we've done is we've done it from a service standpoint, and now we're trying to translate what we've done from a service standpoint into an actual, digital online product to help people get their money right, get their financing right, manage their profit and loss cash flow, and build their net worth. And so it's been an interesting journey. I'm sure it will only get more interesting, as time goes by.
Yeah, I was talking to one of our advisors last night as I was working on this pitch deck, and one thing that he said to me that really made a lot of sense, and it's something so basic, but ultimately said, look, with a pitch deck, you're not trying to put everything out there. You don't want to give them the farm. What you're trying to do is get just enough out there to spark a conversation, to get an investor to start asking questions so that you can then answer and give them what they want to hear. It is just like sales, but you have time to create this perfect sales pitch. Sorry if this is too much, but in sales, back one of my very first sales trainers ever said, great salespeople you're a stripper, not a prostitute.
Yes, 100%.
And it's the same thing with the pitch deck. You've got to spark the conversation, but not give them way too much.
Yeah, if you give them too much, then they feel like, I already know it, it's not going to work, or they have their own idea. But if it's curiosity-based, let me arouse your curiosity with this potential solution to this big problem, but I'm not going to give you all the details until you dig deeper in the process where I can actually show you how it's going to work. And it's almost like in marketing, like when we build out these sales funnels, I'll have a landing page and the headline is everything. If the headline arouses your curiosity and you want to find out more, and it's like, how the number one way business coaches, consultants, trainers are, scaling their business to 7 figures, but you don't give them all the details, right? But now you're like, well, I wonder what that number one way is. This guy, he probably has no idea, but I'm curious. And it's almost like I want to prove him wrong. And then you go down the rabbit hole and you're like, he makes a good point, or she makes a good point. And, that's a good idea. And even though this isn't the best example, the other thing I'll say in terms of a story that really provides evidence is a failed, disgraced entrepreneur. Was it Elizabeth Theranos? Was that her name?
Yeah.
No, her name.
No.
Her name was Holmes. Is that what it was?
Oh, man.
Anyway, the Theranos founder, she was super charismatic, and she had this story about her uncle that got cancer, didn't know he had it, was stage 4, and he passed away. And so she told this story, wow, if he'd have had my little blood test thing, we would have known immediately that he had cancer. We would have saved his life. And so she told this story thousands of times. And that one little story convinced people to put up $1 billion in a product that never existed. And it never did exist. But that's how powerful. Now, of course, you would never do that. You would create a real product that actually does exist and be honest with your investors and people. But that's how powerful a great story. And then obviously, was when Steve Jobs, he would come out every year and, there's 1,000 songs in this iPod device. And people are like, what? They got 1,000 songs in your pocket? That was curiosity. Wait, how you can't get 1,000? So that's curiosity based. Or, you're going to be able to watch a video on this little phone device. That people had never seen that before. And so then all this, that's what creates curiosity, leads to investors, clients wanting to get to the next step.